We back, baby. How y'all feeling out there? You already know what it is. We here for another episode of Mental Health Talks. It's me, Tasso, my boy Willie. We
Yo,
back for
yo,
another. I
man.
don't even know what number this is, man. It's like number 8, 9, something like that. We just keep coming back because I feel like this is something that's needed. So, um, yeah. How you feeling this week, bro? How you feeling today? It's this beautiful Friday.
And bro, the the topic today,
You want to break it
evolve.
in? You want to break it in for the people?
Yeah, hey, why not? And to say I feel like I'm going through an evolution, and it's not so much of what people can see, and
Yeah.
how do you even analyze something that you can't see, but you can say that grows. And to say my mind has just patience,
Patience. Well, people,
patience to
if you
grow.
didn't know, we're about to talk about evolution today, and not your type that you usually think about. We're not talking about that Charles Darwin, even though that's important. Biology is great, but there's another type of evolution that we don't usually talk about, and I feel like it's extremely important, equally, if not more so important, and that's our mental evolution, our spiritual and mental evolution. How do we grow? That is, how do we continue to evolve as a people, collectively, individually? How do we do these things? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to evolve, how do we grow, because growth isn't only physical. And if we constrict everything just to the physical, we constrict everything just to matter and what we can see. As you said, we miss out on a lot of things because a lot of what is actually going on is below the surface, is what we
Mm.
can't see. And so I'm gonna just kick it off right now with a question to you. How do we grow? Because in a way, we have made everything to do with growth have to be like this sort of well, we do this, and the third, because this is how we've done it in the past. But we're entering a new age where this is a new time. Age of information is what they call it. But I would
Yeah.
argue that we are not necessarily even the most mentally or spiritually in tune with ourselves that we've been in the past. You look at past ancient civilizations, whether you talk about even ancient Greece, talk about ancient African civilizations from Egypt to Ethiopia to everywhere. Like there's different pieces of evidence that says, yo, these people were in touch with themselves in a way that we can't even comprehend, whether it's with the way that they engage with the stars or with the world around them or the weather and everything that kind of goes into that. Like we seem to be a little bit disconnected today. And so I want to
Mm.
ask you, how do we grow, or what is your opinion on this type of evolution, and why don't we pay more attention to it?
And you already know from our talks, bro. I love breaking things down. So I gotta go to the beginning. And when I think about evolution, I think about in simplicity a tadpole. And in order for that tadpole to become a frog, it must evolve. It must go through a transformative process physically.
Yeah, as
Do
long
we
as
even consider what that frog goes through mentally to say, I'm losing or I'm gaining,
mm,
depending on how you look at it?
mm-hmm,
You know, the tadpole loses the ability to swim, but gains the ability to jump and
mm-hmm.
do other things with its physical body. But does it take away from the mental? Does the mental evolve now? Does the frog say, now I can swim and jump? You
Right.
feel me?
There's a frog go, ooh, I'm a frog now. Like,
Ex-
yo, you know what? I'm gonna one up you with this one. Think about this, bro. Caterpillar to butterfly. There's this thing that I heard before, and I'm not 100% sure it's true. So maybe some of y'all out there could back check me, but I feel like this is something that speaks to our evolutionary process. Did you know that when a caterpillar goes into the cocoon, it actually, like, in a way, it dies? Like the entire brain, the insides of the caterpillar, it completely melts and it reforms itself. So when the
mm,
butterfly comes out of the cocoon, it's technically not even the same being. It doesn't have the same brain. It's a completely new creature. And so there's this process that happens to where the caterpillar implodes on itself and then regrows into something new. And I feel like everything in nature is supposed to point back to something in us. Like we're supposed to take lessons from these things. People just think it's all random. I think it's there for a reason. And so these
Definitely.
lessons, I feel like, are things that we could take into account. What does it mean to really evolve? And that's just a small example, right? Like that's just within a couple weeks. What about within generation to generation? What about over the span of the last couple 100,000 years? What does it mean to evolve? Because if we don't take that side of it seriously, we're going to end up technologically and materially and physically peaked out, but mentally we still out here acting like toddlers because we don't understand what we have. We don't understand who we are. And that's a dangerous place to be. Toddlers running around this world with nukes. Like, come on now. We got to grow
You
up.
have you have a serious case of baby minds and adult bodies.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, mental dis-ease,
Mm.
you can see why someone's acting the way they're acting, because they're literally a being that's inside your body that didn't evolve yet, that's not used to its body. And when you see people that literally can't communicate, it's like you can't control your vessel to speak. You have not even gained the skills to communicate effectively. Do you even know who you are mentally? Do you even know your direction? Do you know what you're capable of? These simple,
Yo, old people sometimes mentally still in like high school, as we like, there's a song, old mentally still in high school. It's like that whole idea, bro, because if you really think about it, we have stages for mental development. We call it school, right? We go through our grades, we go through whatever. But then after high school, for some people, after college, for other people, we just stop. Does that mean that we stop growing? Like after you 24 or 22 or whatever time you graduate, does that mean you're just done? Because I feel like growth is supposed to be a lifelong process. And if you just cut yourself off after high school or after college, then you have mentally stunt, you've plateaued when you're supposed to keep growing. You've become that version of yourself. I've heard that there's like whatever music you listen to when you're 20 is the music that you listen to for the rest of your life, or like whatever style you have when you're that age is just like, and there's just almost like this understanding that we all have just come to accept that after this specific age, you don't grow anymore. And I don't think that's right, because we have brains that they call it brain elasticity. Essentially, our brains are like plastic that they can mold and they can grow. If you look at somebody who's blind, for example, they become more acute in their sense of hearing. They become more acute in their sense of smell. That's because their brain can evolve to take advantage of that extra space, those extra neurons that were supposed to be used for sight, and now they use them for other things, right? And so what if we were just more intentional with that? Like, okay, now I can begin to grow in my emotional self, in my spiritual self, in my mental self. We don't have to stop just because they stop giving us books. We have to start learning for ourselves and realize that, look, there is, and now more than ever, there is a universe of information out there. And we talked about information isn't the end all, but that is a big part of that continuum. If we don't have that sense of knowledge, then it's hard to graduate to wisdom, and then it's hard to graduate to love. We have to have that sense of knowledge. And so what are we feeding ourselves? What are we giving ourselves in order to grow? Because if we stop growing, you really regressing. If you're not growing, you're going backwards, in my opinion. It's like you don't, when you're in the river and you kayaking or something like that, if you just stop paddling, it's not like you're gonna stop in the river, you're gonna be static. You're gonna just go with the flow. And right now, the flow of culture is not going towards somewhere that I think we want to go towards. So what are we doing? Where are we going? Where are we going?
what are we evolving to? Or in better terms, devolving, as I feel like
Evolving and devolving.
does it even give us resources and opportunities to grow mentally, or is things just one-sided where you have to think this way? And for me, my dilemma was I wanted to go to school to not learn knowledge, but how to be me. And I don't think, well, I know that these teachers don't want you to learn you. But how do you evolve when you got somebody that doesn't even teach you the direction that you need to even go in order to evolve mentally? And now to say that curriculums are in the school that teach children what? Teach children
A lot of
what?
things that they're teaching them that don't even line up with reality nowadays that they're pushing for. You got folks that a parent could ask a simple question or say like, I'm not 100% sure I like what y'all teaching our kids, and they'll be canceled, right? Like it's one of those things nowadays. But hey, what are we doing? What are we doing here? I like the point you just brought up, becoming ourselves, becoming yourself. What does that even mean? I think there's two ways that we grow. First, we have to lean into the unknown because there are these two dimensions of reality. I think there's the known and the unknown. The unknown is kind of like the chaos, right? It's like the area outside of our expertise or our domain of influence that we can't really perceive it yet, but we know it's out there. And then there's the known, which is, where I'm comfortable. In order to grow, you have to lean out of your comfort zone. There's a saying that a comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. Because if you in your comfort zone all the time, how are you going to grow? You only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. You've stayed in that box. You've sealed yourself in your box because it feels safe, but you're not going to grow. And the second way we grow, to become ourselves. And we've talked about that a lot on this show. To become yourself means to become real, to be authentic. To be authentic means to continue to strive to learn who you truly are and to tap into that sense of self. And so there's this quote I like. It says, evolution is an active process of selection and ascension. And it's this thing, it's almost like Darwinian, where you have the natural selection process, correct? Natural selection means that you take in whatever parts of the environment allow you to survive, and you discard whatever doesn't. And that's kind of that theory that we allow ourselves to transcend what is around us by taking in the parts of it that allow us to grow. There's another quote that's like, the species that survive aren't necessarily the ones that are the strongest, aren't necessarily ones that are the most intelligent all the time. The ones that survive are the ones that are most adaptable to change, the ones that are able to adapt. And so I'm gonna actually let that be a question to you. For adaptation or for adapting to our environment, how do we do that in an environment that can in some ways be toxic? Because it's like the world around us isn't conducive to our, as you said, becoming ourselves. So how do we adapt in this day and age in order to evolve and not devolve? Because if we're just doing it passively, if we are just going with the flow, as I said, then we going backwards. So how do we take charge of our evolutionary process and adapt in a way that creates growth and not stagnation?
And I'm gonna just go ahead and piggyback off your butterfly parable to correlate nature with us and what we experience and how to evolve. Know that everything is the same. If they have the ability to change their physical makeup and to change their mind, as you said, their mind literally
Yeah,
melts to
literally changing their
a
mind.
new of
Yeah.
perception. And I'm just gonna correlate it to being a caterpillar right now. Like we're walking on the ground. We're walking on the ground surrounded by all the BS. What does a caterpillar do when it's walking on the ground surrounded by all the BS? And it's like nature, no one's teaching this caterpillar, hey, go eat. Hey, watch out for birds. Hey, stay safe. But you know, when it's your time, go cocoon and turn into a butterfly. Then you'll be able to fly above it. Then you'll be able like you won't be surrounded by the BS in your environment. You'll be able to fly above your environment. So I'm like, if a caterpillar can do that, why can't I?
Why not
Why can't a
us?
human?
Why
You
not us?
know,
Yeah, that's true.
and it's just realizing that we have so much strength, so much power, so much unknown about us. Like you said, people are so comfortable just living normal
Yeah,
or whatever normal is, or
right.
accepting the environment that's around them. Like right now, in this day and age, there are agendas being pushed. And to say that if you don't have a mind to think on your own, you're going to follow with the flow because you're not going to see anything else. But to say that you have the ability, just like a caterpillar, to change into a butterfly and fly above mentally, to change your mind, to get a different perspective of your environment, it gets to the point where if you would rather stay trapped, then that's on you. But to say that there are resources, tools, and opportunities to experience that will get you up out of your mental cage, you have to step outside your comfort zone. You have to melt your mind down
Yeah.
and choose what
And it's
is
not necessarily
great.
melting it as in deleting it. I don't want to make people feel like if you're a caterpillar, you less than, because the caterpillar is ingesting all of those nutrients. It's taking in all that perception that eventually is going to become the butterfly. So it's almost like you transcend and include. There's this theorist called I think, well, there's one called Abraham Maslow who came up with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that guy inspired this dude. I can't remember his name right now, but he's big on this thing called spiral dynamics. Stephen something Wilbur. But essentially, what this idea is that we transcend and include. So it's not that you just transcend and you forget your old self and you say, oh, that old me was ugly. I don't even want to have anything to do with it. You have to realize that that old you set the stage for the new you. So that caterpillar, you have the perception on the ground, right? And you looking around on the ground, on the leaves or whatever, and that informs your new perception from above. It's almost like you have a dual perception. You have this capacity now to see from above. You have a bird's eye view or a butterfly's eye view. And from that perspective, you're able to integrate more because you have seen from the ground. You've seen from the bottom floor and now you on the top floor. So you can create a more cohesive picture. If you were just in the air the whole time, you might not understand some of the minutia of how life really works, right? You haven't gone through some of those nitty gritty situations. So you don't really know how these things work on the ground. It's almost like when you're in an organization, sometimes the employees know the problems better than the boss because they're closer to it. That's not to say the employee is less than, it's to say that the employee has a different perspective. And so when we're on our ascension journey, when we're on our evolution journey, we have to realize that every level is important. That's why it's important to live in the now. That's why it's important to be present. We talked about silence last week. It's important to be silent and to take in what you are currently experiencing, because all of those things will inform your next step. If you don't take in what you're experiencing now, then you might stay on level 2 or 3 or whatever level you on indefinitely, or you just keep going around in a circle until you get it right. It's like the nation of Israel. Israel was in the desert for 40 years, bro. When Moses was leading them through the desert, 40 years. Do you know how long it would have taken them to get to the promised land if they took a straight line?
Was it like 6 days or something like that?
11
Couple of days,
days.
11 days.
11 days turned to 40 years. Why? Because they were thick in the head. So God had to keep on sending them around. We're gonna learn this lesson, whether it's the easy way or the hard way, because you're not getting to that next level until you master this level. And I think this is something I'm talking to myself every time I'm getting passionate and yelling. Don't feel like it's at you, whether it's, something that you're going through as well as something that you feel convicted on. I'm talking to me too. Sometimes you go over, like, you want to get to that next level because you see it, I'm sure at some points they probably got close enough to smell it, to see it, that, oh, look, it's over there. But they had to keep going around because they hadn't learned the lessons that they needed to learn. So evolution isn't just this, let's glorify the butterfly and forget about the caterpillar. It's about integrating both of them, understanding that they're both important, but realizing that we need to grow up. We can't stay a caterpillar forever because that's not how God intended it. That's not what nature made. It didn't make the caterpillar to stay a caterpillar. The caterpillar becomes the butterfly for a reason. And if we stay in our caterpillar state, then we're never going to get to where we can be. We're supposed to be flying. We're supposed to be out here as human beings, loving on people. We're supposed to be giving. We're supposed to be understanding. We're supposed to be, like, I think of the song "Where's the Love" about the Black Eyed Peas. It's like this old song, and it's like take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to the love, y'all. And it's that line that always sticks with me because it's like we really have so much growth to do, but if we would just take control of our minds and really do the hard work of getting through the muck and stop trying to put on a mask to cover up all of our poop and actually just said, you know what, this is what it is, and started shoveling.
Yeah.
Who knows what will happen? Who knows what will happen? Only God, bro. And it's this idea of we got to reflect and we got to connect and then we can ascend. We get to this place where we only think of evolution as these bones and these muscles and us trying to become physically the most pristine specimens ever, and we completely forget about the other side of it, and we don't end up in, there's this movie called Idiocracy where it's like a fake view into the future where the entire population is super dumb and everybody is super like they're almost like apes. We've devolved to a state where we can't even govern ourselves because we don't know anything.
They were watering plants with Gatorades. Was that was that movie? I
It might
forgot.
be. I think it might be. I'm not 100% sure, but it might as well be because we don't know.
Is that evolution
Mm.
in a way where we look at the advancement of technology and we're saying, this can help us out in nature. And then it's like nature's looking at us, hey, I've already perfected this
I mastered
evolution.
that.
Why are you coming in here saying that you can perfect it even more by adding steroids and pesticides to the environment to keep it safe? Is that considered evolving right there? Is that considered evolution when
Have
you
you ever heard
have
of biomimicry?
biomimicry that is like copying something in nature where
Yeah,
that
exactly.
doesn't
Exactly
help?
that. It's like you take design principles from that leaf or from like the honeycomb or something like that, and you realize, oh, this shape is actually really structurally sound. The way the bees do it, we should actually probably take some of the way the wings are designed on this thing is how we designed our airplanes, for example, right? So it's like taking things from nature doesn't mean that you like that's probably the best version of what do you call it when you copy somebody's notes or copy somebody's plagiarism. That's probably the best version of plagiarism. Like, let's copy God. I don't mind that. he got that. He got that perfect. He looked at everything and said it was good, and he said this is perfect. Look, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Let's go ahead and see what lessons we can learn from nature. Let's see what lessons we can learn from the universe, from the world around us, instead of thinking that we have to reinvent the wheel. Essentially, we have to rethink up everything because we have these crazy data centers, and our ability to curate all of this information now has surpassed every past civilization all time. We're just so full of ourselves is what it is. I think we so full of ourselves that we don't realize how much is already being given to us. It's like we already have it right here. All we have to do is submit and take it. But we want to be whatever. Man, this might have to be a two-part thing, bro, because I have some more notes. Like I got a whole bunch of other notes. We might have to make this two-part.
I'm
But
with it.
yo, I'm thinking when was the last time that we really evolved, like mentally? I'm thinking of when they invented the piano, it was like around the 1500s. You have 100 years later, the Renaissance period. Why did that happen? Because essentially what happened was that we had neural connections that were used before for tying shoes or for planting seeds. And all of a sudden they became redirected to creative endeavors.
Mm,
We began writing symphonies, we began playing instruments. And all of a sudden our brains became more capable. What does that mean for
mhm.
us today? What type of thoughts are we having today that will build the next 100 years? Because right now, it looks like we're not headed to a renaissance, we headed towards the other side of it. And if we don't fix ourselves now, it's very, very, very dangerous what we are building for the next generation and the generation after that. Because we have to set ourselves up for success. It doesn't just come, right? It doesn't just fall in our laps. We don't just have these, like we don't just have these periods of immense growth. Like they say that we probably accelerated 200 years during that couple years of the Renaissance because mentally we were just there. In the same way they talk about like this pandemic thing has felt like decades. In ways it almost has been to our mental, because it's like a week feels like a year sometimes, because it's just like, oh my goodness, that was a tough one. So who's to say it can't be the other way around? Who's to say that we can't accelerate forward 100 years in the next year if we really just got down to it and said, let's get outside of our comfort zone. Let's really start to take active participation in this evolution process. What would happen? What would happen?
Man, and right now, I just got a download of basically
Yeah.
explaining a parable about the 40-year journey.
Hmm.
It's like our minds are so powerful, but at the same time, it can be used to harm us if we do not focus on getting to the next step and evolving.
Double-edged sword.
We'll just keep on going around and around and around in a circle because we're not focused enough. It's our environment, honestly, has too many distractions,
Hmm.
in my opinion. And I feel like when we come and do our discussions together, it creates a space where we can talk about our minds and what we're thinking. People
Hmm.
don't talk about what they're thinking. They just say what they're thinking. And we take that as, oh, okay,
Hmm.
that's not really what they're thinking. They're just saying. And it's
Hmm.
like it goes hand to hand with the music too. That's not
Hmm.
what they're thinking. They're just saying, no, that's
Yeah.
what that person is thinking. That's what that person is doing. That's what that person is behaving like. What are we when we can sit in front of each other and say the words that come out of our mouth aren't necessarily truth?
Hmm.
Or can we even consider the words coming out of another individual's mouth as evolution to help us get to the next step of being great in his
That's
life?
the metacognition. We were talking about that probably in one of the like first couple of episodes, right? Thinking about what
Yeah.
you're thinking about. Because if you don't do
Mm-hmm.
that, then you just end up talking nonsense all the time. Whatever you just spewing
Talking
out,
nonsense.
whatever's.
Everybody's just talking back and forth. And then, hey, last week, silence. There's no silence to even figure out what the goal is to evolve into. Like, who's talking to these animals to say, hey, you're going to grow up and you're going to be this, that, and that. And they're perfectly fine. You know, you don't see
Mhm.
animals out here fighting each other as far as like just, you
Outside
know,
of their
they
nature, right?
created
They
some
do what they're supposed
technology,
to
you
do.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
created something outside of their body that allows them to engage in each other negatively.
Hmm.
We've done that to a
Yeah.
point where you can click on a keyboard, send out a post, and people can look at you and say, I feel negative about you. And so I'm going to respond to you in a negative way.
Hmm.
Is that evolution?
Mm. No. No, man. Really, I love the way you put that. It's like this, and I love this other idea of the flywheel of it's this continual revision process. It's this ability for us to learn, but it only comes when we actually take the time to get that lesson. It's like when you're trying to improve in anything. Say you're trying to improve in basketball, right? So you over there, you hooping, and you're trying to get You're trying to get a move down. How do you do that? You practice intentionally that move, and then you get the feedback right away. Maybe the feedback is coach says you're not doing that right. Maybe the feedback is in the game, somebody strips you and she's okay, or somebody, whatever. And so you get that feedback, and now you go back to the gym, right? So you work on that thing, you work on that thing, and it becomes this continual. It's almost like a cycle where you listen, which is that silence part from last week, and then you test it. You go out in the world and you see what it does, and then you learn. Did that work? Did that not work? Listen, test, learn. Listen, test, learn. And as you keep doing that, you continue to get better. And it's just a natural progression upwards. That's where the name spiral dynamics comes from. And it's actually the guys. There's one guy. His name is Clare who really came up with it. But it's this idea that you start at the bottom and you just kind of you're spiraling. Oh, let me learn. Oh, wait. Okay, I learned now. Oh, wait. Okay. And as you grow, you continue to go upwards, and you continue to incorporate all of those lower levels, all those lessons you learned before, but you continue to expand and grow upwards as you continue to refine the flywheel. But we have some ways we've cut off that flywheel. We've cut out the silence bit. And so we out here just, as you said, we just talking over each other. Nobody really knows, but we just talking. We just saying things. Or what's the point of like science? That's the whole thing of science is you observe, you experiment, and then you learn. This day and age, science just means whatever that guy says is true, and you better believe it. Since when was that?
We got fact
What rubbish is
checkers.
that? You know, like that's not like. Look, I don't know what kind of science y'all do, but I ascribe to the great minds of our past, and the way they did science was that you continue to question. You question everything, and once you get to that point where you have understanding, not just knowledge. Because knowledge you can throw away. You can say, oh, knowledge is kind of vague. Understanding, that's that next step we talked about. Understanding is when you can explain it to a 5-year-old and they get it. That's when you really get a thing. And right now, a lot of us have knowledge with no understanding. We just went to the back of the book and we got the answer, but we never went through the flywheel of understanding how we actually got there. And with that, there's no evolution. Well, you die, and then that information is dead too, because you can't pass it on. And so we have to get to a point where we are really, really being, at least we got to be real with ourselves, first of all, because if we're not real with ourselves with the level that we at, then we never going to grow. If we're not real with ourselves and the level that we want to get to, we never going to grow. It's like you got to aim at something before you can hit it. If you just saying, I just want to shoot, you're just going to be randomly shooting all over the place. But if you got a target set up, you say, I want to shoot at that, you might not hit it the first time. You might not hit it the second time, but you're going to keep practicing. You're going to get closer and closer to that bullseye until you hit it. That's what it means to have a target and to really go after it. Right now, as a culture, we don't have nothing. We just going, as you said, going with the flow.
No, we do have something. And what was those, you said listen,
test, and learn.
Listen, test, and learn. And as I'm listening, and as I'm testing spirits, learning what environment I'm really in, and to say that you just sit back and let other people speak. You will learn what environment they support. You will learn what environment they wish to create. And bro, as of right now, I'm going through my evolution, and with all retrospects from me physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, where right now it's like I'm questioning if I should even go back to work. Is this place going to help me evolve into the person that I can be, or is the surroundings of my environment cater to a lower self being portrayed?
That's big. That's a big idea you just put out there, Lo. I don't know if they're ready to digest that yet. That's big, because sometimes we put ourselves in prison. We think we have to do something, so we do it, not knowing that the whole time that thing is what's holding us back. Because if we don't understand that we're aiming at something that's greater, We gonna keep doing the same. We gonna stick with the same habits that aren't serving us. A bad habit is like a comfortable bed, very easy to get into, very difficult to get out of. And if you don't have the wherewithal to understand how these habits are either serving you or not serving you, you'll get real comfortable in that bad habit. And then we just talked about it. That comfort zone is a comfortable place, but nothing ever grows there. A plant has to break through the seed, then it has to break through the soil, and then it has to reach for the sky, and then it has to open up, and then the sun can bless it. It doesn't just start out as a sunflower. It doesn't just start out like that. It starts out as a seed.
You don't even see the sun in the
For
beginning.
how long before it got to be watered, it got to be nutrient, it's got to have the right soil, and
And
then
right air environment. So it's like you really put all of that into retrospect and to say, are humans even catered in their environment to evolve to the next level? Then let's just hit on and stay on our topic mentally. Mentally. And it's like we are teaching children by how we behave as adults. And to say that, as we reiterated in the beginning, some of these adults are just kids in big bodies.
Mhm.
So now they're looking at us. Do they even respect adults anymore?
No.
Kids
There's a
don't
TikTok trend going around where kids are slapping teachers, bro. I seen this the other day. I'm like, what? I would have never gotten away with this. Yo, what is going on with this generation? They literally don't respect us. They don't respect
This
the
is
next
the evolution. This is the evolution that they
real talk. And
where
they
the
out here
knowledge,
eating Tide Pods because they don't believe in nothing, bro. We don't tell them nothing that's real. How can they believe us?
we taught them knowledge, but did we ever teach them love? Did we ever teach them pride, respect, consistency,
Wisdom,
patience?
understanding, all this good stuff that we supposed to be passing down. Love, joy, peace, patience, all these fruits of the spirit that we talk about. Where are they? Where are they manifesting? They call fruit of the spirit because they're observable.
Mm.
There's a scripture that says, you will know my followers by their fruit.
Mm.
It's not that you know them by their words or by what they say they're going to do, because everybody can say whatever. It's by what the result is, or not maybe something that's not even spiritual, a secular saying. The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Mm.
It's in what you actually get out of it. That's what the evidence of the growth is. And right now, I look around in the world today and I don't see growth. I just see a bunch of people who are comfortable in their dog poo. They're comfortable rolling around in it like we pigs or something.
Hey, and man, you touching a very spiritual part right now where you probably don't even comprehend, bro. But the fact is that I'm speaking to you and saying that I see exactly what you're speaking about in literal terms. People rolling around in filth. I deal with individuals with the mental disease, and they literally roll around in filth. And it's like, I'm trying to portray to them, hey, this is not the behavior that we should be modeling. Get up, stand up. And to say that this is not just one case, this can be many where children just think it's okay to just not improve in life.
They haven't learned any of that good stuff. They don't even learn respect. They don't know it. I remember I was in the I want to wrap up soon because I know my buddy's trying to do his thing, and I'm gonna respect his time too. But I know that we're gonna have to probably do a part 2 with this. But there was one story from when I was a child. I remember this. I was on like a youth travel baseball team. I remember as a kid of an African immigrant, I just had to respect my parents. I didn't have a choice. That was just level one. Like, you better respect me. And Nigerians out there know when you greet your parents or your grandparents, you literally have to get on the ground. You prostrate before your elders. That's just something that's a cultural norm in African households. And so I was on this travel baseball team, and there was this one kid who, it will be unnamed, but he had this air about him just of disrespect. And you could tell he just didn't respect his folks for whatever reason. And it could be for a good reason. Maybe they just weren't respectable, maybe. But the fact that he never learned respect, it manifested in ways that were just very, very, very disgusting. You would see him in the dugout and he would scream at his dad, "Hey, MFer, get me a Gatorade." And I'm looking at him like, what? Now, who do you think that kid is going to grow up to respect? He never learned it as a kid. That's the same kid that's going to grow up and he's going to be a boss of somebody who actually knows respect, and he's going to run that guy ragged, or he's going to make this person feel like they're less than or whatever, because they never even learned the value of respect. They don't know. As we said, kids in adult bodies never learn the value of none of this stuff, so they don't even think it's necessary. So when somebody even comes to them with respect, they think they're just faking. They just, oh, this person's probably just whatever, because they never even understood the value of these things. And we are very quickly headed towards a generation of people who have no value for anything good. And it's very, very scary. But let me let you, whatever thoughts you have that you think you want to get out before we end this episode, let's let you get that out before we end this conversation, because this is a really good one. And I'm really, unfortunately, we got to cut this one short, but we're going to get back to it and do another one for sure, because there's a lot in this. There's a lot in this.
Part 2 coming soon.
Yes.
And bro, I just feel like we touched it as far as evolving mentally. Yeah, our bodies have evolved where it's like everyone is, we feel like we're doing physically pleasing acts. Everybody's able to engage in athletic endeavors more profound than before.
Mm-hmm.
Quotation marks. But then it's like, yeah, our bodies can do these things, but what about our mind?
Yeah.
Has our mind evolved, or has it devolved?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'll say that for the folks at home, that's a good one to sit with. That's a good one to sit with this week, and just be silent with that one. Are you evolving or are you devolving? Is growth only physical, or is it something that is mental and spiritual as well? Think about it. Because at the end of the day, we have to understand where we're headed towards. And if we have no target, then we're going to go where these agendas are taking us. And if you don't like where they're going, then you need to start thinking. You need to wake up. And you need to realize that I need to take control of my own destiny. And that's where we start to actually make these moves towards something that's real. And when we start moving towards something that's real, things start happening. Beautiful things start happening. Doors start opening. Connections start occurring. And that's when we start to become the people that we're supposed to be. But anyway, this has been another episode of Mental Health Talks with Willie Tasso. Much love to everybody who made it through the end. We appreciate y'all. We'll be back again next week with some more talks, maybe even a little before then. We'll see. We'll figure this out. We're just doing it as we go along, y'all. So be patient with us. We still figuring out the technical side of this, all the stuff. It's going to come together in perfect time. But right now, take these gems and just meditate on them, because there's some good stuff coming out of these conversations. Much love to you, Willie. I appreciate you, bro. Anything else you want to say before we leave?
Man, hey, just keep inspiring, keep evolving. Like you said every day, just thank God.
We'll keep growing out here, bro. Much love to you. Much love to everybody who watched. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.